Oh, yes, it's true. I do live in Southern California in the Los Angeles area. No, I'm nowhere near the fires, but our hearts go out to the folks in the Pacific Palisades, Santa Monica area, where I lived for 6 years, a very, very long time ago, but I didn't live very far from there for most of my adult life. I have lived in Southern California, however, since 1965. I've seen lots and lots of fires. No matter what anybody's telling you about the causes or the reasons for these fires, generally what we have is we had 2 years of good rain. So the 1963 and 64 rainy seasons were very, very good. Got lots and lots of growth, lots and lots of growth in the areas where we have this fire material that grows like crazy in our region. Then we had no rain. So we've had a couple of minutes of rain over the summer, kind of unusual in Southern California, but I mean, there were nothing really to speak about. And we are now into the middle of January. We've had zero rain so far this season. Well, that creates dry conditions. When you get the dry conditions following the 2 years of rainy conditions, and then you get the wind, and then you probably get some body setting the fire on purpose because they know that this is the perfect conditions, or it might be a spark from something, or it might be somebody with a campfire. I mean, or it could be a vagrant, as has been pointed out. Sometimes they start these fires for reasons unknown, probably even to them. Anyway, that's the situation. Both of these fires are horrific, and I appreciate a lot of concern coming from you folks out there. All right, let me go on to the story to get back to Tesla here. We are talking about blaming and wrongheadedness. Some this morning are blaming the softness in the Tesla stock on the NHTSA. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's NHTSA. People tell me that I pronounce it wrong. NHTSA. The NHTSA decision to review 4 accidents involving poles and parked cars and advanced ASS. Anyway, as Barron's points out, that's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. That is, well, if the stock is down for that reason, then the people that are selling it off because of that reason need their heads examined. All right, so then there are some saying that the bond action that we've got going on right now, the upward trend in the bonds, is related to inflation worries about Trump's promised tariffs. Well, that would also be nuts. I mean, it may be true that some people are making decisions about not buying or not buying bonds because of worries over tariffs. And certainly the press would have you believe that these tariffs are going to create horrific inflation. Well, yeah, but a whole bunch of other people, including me, have been talking about that as being nuts for a long time. And somebody came up with a very good way to look at it. During the last Trump administration, where he had lots of tariff increases, did you see inflation? No, you did not. Inflation is caused by government spending too much money, printing too much money. That's where you get inflation. I just read the book. I mean, I already knew this, but I'm reading this book that was sent to me by one of my followers here on the channel, and it was about Bitcoin. But the first 3 chapters were all about money and talking about how inflation happens. Well, you get too much money, the actual currency, the actual availability of whatever the coin of the realm is, chasing too few goods, and you get inflation. And the only way you get more money is if the government prints it. Anyway, yes, there can be interim inflation caused by all the things we think about: raising wages, oil prices going up, etc. Those are actually, what would you call it? Proximate causes. Those would be called proximate causes, but you can't have those things unless you have the original cause, which is too much government money being printed. Now, I think bond investors are some of the smartest investors out there. I believe the bond investors are smart enough to know everything I just said. And so I think the bond investors are not buying bonds because they're afraid that Trump is not going to be any better at cutting deficits and relieving the pressure on the Treasury than the last multiple administrations, going all the way back to Clinton with the help of Gingrich. All right. So the markets are lower this morning, as bond yields were at least higher in the early going, though the last time I checked, they were actually flat. The jobs news is both good and bad. We'll talk about that in a minute. Meanwhile, at the moment that I last checked, Tesla can't decide. It's up, it's down, it's right around zero. It was up 6, it was down 2 anyway, but we'll check on that at the end, as we always do. Sawyer Merritt says this morning, now see, this stuff, listen. Sawyer Merritt, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang today said Tesla's approach to self-driving, he's referring to Tesla's approach to self-driving. He says, Elon has a great advantage because his AI factory for his cars is fantastic. It has a lot of NVIDIA gear in it. His AV algorithms are incredible. It's the best in the world. He has a very large fleet of cars on the road that allows him to collect a lot of data. I think he's in a phenomenal position. And Tesla stock is down. Oh, then we have Ford CEO. Ford saying that, Ford CEO saying that Tesla did FSD the right way with vertical integration. He complains that Ford and others have 150 suppliers providing 150 different systems on everything that has anything to do with chips or software. They don't talk to each other. These 150 different systems are all completely independent. And so, and his own people, their own software engineers, they're not in that business. They're Detroit people, not Silicon Valley people. And I'm not casting aspersions. I'm just saying the world of AI and the world of chips and the world of software is over here on this coast. It's kind of moving to Austin, but a lot of it is still in the Silicon Valley and down here in the Silicon Coast. In Southern California as well. Anyway, and after that statement by Ford yesterday, Tesla is down. Jim Farley, has said it before. He's saying it again. Maybe Jim is setting us up for the reality that Ford is going to get close to making that decision to license something from Tesla. Sawyer Merritt had this also. He says, this is back to Jensen Huang again. Has another quote from Jensen. Says that he was talking about Elon Musk and his attitude about AI. Jensen says, quote, he's working on some of the most important AI areas. XAI is working on foundation cognitive intelligence AI, which many people say that they are almost ahead or will be ahead or will actually win at the end of the day. We had a conversation about that last night last night was Nicholas Gibbs. Nicholas is saying he believes that it's a two-way race at this point between Google and XAI. He says Tesla is working on autonomous vehicles and Optimus for humanoid robots. These 3 areas of AI are the most important areas of AI. I think Elon is working on exactly the right things. And Tesla stock is down. This is Randy Kirk. Please hit like, subscribe, notify, all that stuff. Later today, Jeff Lutz, probably an early show today, maybe about 3:30. That show will be on. And then later that evening, we will have Brian White, who we interrupted for Brian Huang last night, but then something happened, he had technical difficulties. So the Brian Huang thing might be on midday today. Or I might do it on Friday, or I'm not exactly sure right now. We'll have to decide. But so that's what's coming up later today. Obviously, I'd love to have you join Patreon. Information down below. It only takes a minute. All right. This from Squawk Square. I don't usually quote Squawk Square because he's kind of all over the place, and I don't always think he's right. But I thought this was valuable. He says, breaking, Fred's Waller, one of the Fed presidents or governors, I forget which one he is, predicts tamer inflation and more rate cuts in 2025. Well, there you go. That's one. What are there, 11 or 13 or 14? Anyway, now here we go. Here's the employment news. Now, this week is employment week. So every single day, except for Thursday, we're going to get all this employment news. Friday, of course, is the big numbers from the regular labor numbers. Anyway, private employers, ADP added 122,000 jobs in December versus 136,000 expected and 146,000 last month. So that would say, oh, labor is cooling. That would cause the market to say, oh, good. I don't know why. I mean, you want the business to be good. But anyway, good news is bad, bad news is good. So that would cause the market the bonds to say, oh, okay. So the rest of the article or the rest of the information coming in from ADP said the labor market downshifted to a more modest pace of growth in the final month of 2024, with a slowdown in both hiring and pay gains. Healthcare stood out in the second half of the year, creating more jobs than any other sector. I looked through the rest of the information there, and there was healthcare. It was all the regular ones. Leisure, hospitality was doing well. Manufacturing was down. It's just what we've been seeing. Construction was actually up, and it was big construction. In fact, big companies were doing okay, but small companies, not so much, which we've also been reporting on. Okay. By the way, that last quote was from Nella Richardson, the chief economist at ADP. Going in the opposite direction was good news for the economy, and good news for job holders, but not so much for the bond market. In the week ending January 4th, the advanced figure for seasonally adjusted initial claims was 201,000, which was a good number, a decrease of 10,000 from the previous week's unrevised level of 211,000, and the 4-week moving average of 213. The advanced seasonally adjusted insured unemployment rate was 1.2%, which was unchanged. And then the total, this is the best news of all for the workers, the total number of continued weeks claimed for benefits in all programs was decreased by 88,000. Now that's a small decrease, but it's a decrease because it's been going up rather regularly. So anyway, this would be something the bond market would say, oh, see, the market's still, the business is still too hot. All right, then we have wholesale inventories, which I don't care as much about, and it's if you want to stop listening right now because the rest of it is more. No, I'll be talking about the Tesla price and what's it anyway. Wholesale inventories in the United States declined by 0.2% in November, which is also way in the rearview mirror. Why shouldn't we have December information? Compared to October's revised figures, reached 901 billion, in line with analyst expectations, according to the U.S. Census Bureau. Hopefully Elon and Vivek are going to change this. This is December 8th today, right? And they don't have the information for December yet. The sales of merchant wholesalers adjusted for seasonal variations and trading day differences, but not for price changes, stood climbing 6.6% compared to October's revised figures. Based on seasonally adjusted data, the inventory sales ratio was 1.33, down from 1.35. So you've got a little bit of flat news. It's really what it is. Okay, wait a minute. Let me grab. Okay. So let's look at where the stocks are. How is any of this impacting things this morning? So you have got the market as continuing to be down. Tesla, however, is up. As I mentioned, it's just up and down around zero. So at the exact moment, it's up $1.33. You've got the Dow Jones down 0.12%, NASDAQ down 0.13%, and S&P down 0.07%. They have been they've been down all morning, but they are all trending up. So they're all heading towards the green. You've got Apple up a tad. You've got NVIDIA up a tad, 0.20%. You've got Microsoft up the most, but the rest of them are down, and all of the Cathie Woods are in negative territory. All right, so we'll go over to the bonds. And on the bonds, we have unchanged right now. So the 10-year was up earlier this morning. It is now changed to up, but only 0.2 of a basis point. That compares to the 2-year, which is actually down 2.3, and the 1 month, which is actually down also 1.1 basis points. But the 10-year right now sitting at 4.687 is the one everybody is concentrating on. This is extremely high given conditions, and so therefore it has to be explained. I gave you the explanation before. They are worried about the Trump administration. They don't trust them to cut. They don't trust the DOJ Commission, which they can't yet trust them, even though Elon never bet against Elon. But they're probably not in that position. They're probably saying, no, we want to see, show me the money or show me the less money. All right, so that's the bond situation. Oil is down a tad this morning. but we're still sitting at $74 for Texas Intermediate. Brent down a little more, down 19 cents, 76.86, but still under that $3 that I always talk about. Natural gas is up 5.86% this morning at 3.65, kind of in the middle still of the range. Gold up 15.50, climbing up a little bit now, moving toward, it's 2681 now. We could be looking at 2700 soon if directionality continues. Silver up a little bit also, almost to 31. Copper up 1.39 at 4.254, right in the middle of its range. Dollar strengthens. Bond yields are always generally, if you got bonds up, dollar's usually going to be up. If you got dollar and yields up, then you're going to have less exports, more imports. Those are things to always take in mind. These all work together, and then it also impacts commodities. So as the dollar goes up, the oil price relative to the dollar goes down, but the oil price right now is up. So that makes it even worse. All right, so Bitcoin at down 1,000. It was down more earlier. It's at 95,315 right now. Nothing really to pick up from that. Okay, so remember, it is Brian Huang sometime. Maybe I'll do that in the middle of the day. We will have Brian White at the late show, 7:45. Jeff Lutz in the middle, earlier than normal, probably around 3:15, something like that. If you want to catch all those shows, you hit notify. You can't hit notify unless you subscribe. And so I'd love to have you do that. And then on top of that, hitting the like button is always good. And then joining Patreon is the very, very best thing that you can do to help support the channel. But just watching it is enough. Thank you so much. My numbers are up so much from last year, and it's because of you. That's right. Can't do it, as they say. I'm not the first one to ever say this. It couldn't happen without you, and that is an absolute fact. It's been great talking to you. Oh, I'm so sorry. One last thing. I'm going back because I always do it, and it would be sad. Oh, I didn't even give you something to watch from last night. Oh, I didn't do Brian Huang last night. You want to watch Jeff Lutz? Jeff Lutz and I it wasn't Jeff Lutz, Nicholas Gibbs. Nicholas Gibbs and I'm telling you, it was phenomenal. It was fantastic. He gave you two names that you should be very worried about coming up in the future in the tech world. Two names to be very concerned about. Not investment advice, but go check it out if you want to find out which two names he thinks are not going to do well. All right. Tesla down, up 0.50, which is $1.98. So on the move, Tesla. All right. Now, that's all I got for you. And it's been great talking to you for the very last time.